Hey everyone, let's talk about a guy who is basically the Captain Canada of combat sports. I'm talking about Georges St-Pierre, GSP. If you've ever watched MMA, you know the name. But if you're new, just imagine a guy who looks like he was sculpted out of granite, speaks with the politest French-Canadian accent you've ever heard, and spent about a decade turning the world's most dangerous humans into ragdolls. But here's the thing. George didn't start out as a super soldier. He grew up in St. Isidore, Quebec, and he's been very open about the fact that he was bullied as a kid. It's wild to think about now, but that's actually what pushed him into Kyokushin karate when he was 7. He wasn't trying to be a world champion. He just didn't want to get pushed around anymore. As he got older, he saw the early UFC tapes, the ones where Royce Gracie was submitting giants, and he realized karate wasn't enough. So, while most teenagers were hanging out at the mall, George was working 3 jobs. He was a garbage man, he worked in flooring, and he was a bouncer at a club called Fuzzy Brossard. Imagine trying to start a fight at a club, and the guy who steps in is a young GSP. Terrible life choice. He turned pro in 2002. Now, before he even stepped foot in the UFC, George was already a problem. He started his pro career in the Canadian regional circuit, and honestly, it wasn't even fair. He went a perfect 5-0 on his way to the UFC, and he wasn't just scraping by. He finished every single one of those fights. He makes his UFC debut at UFC 46 against Karo Parisyan, who was this scary judo specialist. George wins, looks like a natural, and suddenly everyone is saying, okay, this kid is the future. Then, he hits his first real speed bump. He gets a title shot against the legend, Matt Hughes. Now, GSP idolized Hughes. He's admitted that when he stepped into the cage, he didn't even feel like he belonged there. He lost via armbar with 1 second left in the first round. Most people would be crushed. George? He treated it like a PhD program. He went back, obsessed over his weaknesses, and started a win streak that led him right back to a rematch. This is where the GSP rhythm really starts. He knocks out Hughes to win the belt in 2006, and it feels like the coronation of a king. But, and there's always a but in MMA, his very next fight is against Matt Serra. Serra was a massive underdog, like +700 or +1,000 underdog, and he knocks George out in the first round. It's still considered one of the biggest upsets in sports history. If you want to know who Georges St-Pierre really is, don't look at the wins. Look at how he handled that loss. He didn't make excuses. He hired sports psychologists, he refined his wrestling until it was better than Division I All-Americans, and he became the most disciplined athlete in the sport. He won the interim belt, then absolutely demolished Serra in the rematch in Montreal. The roar of that crowd? Probably still echoing through the Bell Center today. From 2008 to 2013, the welterweight division was essentially the GSP Invitational. He defended the belt 9 times in a row. He beat BJ Penn, he beat John Fitch, Thiago Alves, Josh Koscheck, Jake Shields. He was systematically dismantling the best fighters on the planet. And he did it in a way that was almost frustratingly perfect. He wouldn't just beat you, he'd beat you at your own game. If you were a wrestler, he'd out-wrestle you. If you were a striker, he'd jab your face into a different zip code. But man, the pressure started to cook him. By the time he fought Johnny Hendricks in 2013, you could see the wear and tear. It was a brutal, controversial split decision win. And then, at the post-fight press conference, he just stepped away. He didn't use the word retire, but he needed out. He talked about the obsessive-compulsive nature of his training and the mental toll of being the target for 5 years. He vacated the belt and just disappeared into the sunset to study dinosaurs and aliens.
Are you still interested in aliens? Is that
Yeah,
still,
man.
Still?
Seriously, he loves paleontology. Most legends should stay retired. But in 2017, after 4 years away, he decided he had one more mission. He jumped up a weight class to middleweight to fight Michael Bisping. People thought he was too small, too old, or that the ring rust would be too much. Instead, he goes out there, drops Bisping, and finishes him with a rear naked choke. 2-division champion. Mic drop. Total legend status. Today, he's retired for real now, looking healthy, still training like a madman, and probably the only guy in history to leave the UFC on his own terms with his brain cells and his legacy fully intact. He went from a bullied kid in Quebec to the greatest of all time. That's the GSP way. If you enjoyed this deep dive into GSP's journey, do me a quick solid and hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel and make sure that bell icon is clicked so you never miss a drop. We are just getting started here. Thanks for tuning in.